She arrived like a shadow in daylight. Quiet, unassuming, just another face in uniform. Private Elena Torres didn't speak unless spoken to. She didn't smile unless she had to. While others stumbled through their first week, tripping over gear and laughing off nerves, Elena moved like she already knew the terrain. She didn't look lost. She looked like she'd been here before. No one knew much about her. No photos on her bunk. No stories from home. The other recruits filled the air with talk of family, girlfriends, football, and future plans. Elena just sat there, listening, never interrupting. At first, the others ignored her. Then they noticed something strange. During early drills, she never hesitated. She didn't jump at sudden noise. Her form was too precise, her steps too measured. She blended into her environment like she'd been trained to disappear. One night, as the squad settled into their bunks, a young private leaned over to his bunkmate and whispered, "You ever seen her flinch?" Even once. The bunkmate shook his head. "Nope. And I've been watching." They started to guess. Maybe she grew up around the military. Maybe she came from a special family. Or maybe, as one joked, she was raised by ghosts. But no one dared ask. She gave off an energy. Not angry. Not cold. Just controlled. And then came the first rifle test. Standard marksmanship at 300 yards. Most recruits tried too hard, rushing their breathing, fumbling with their grips. Elena stepped up, adjusted the strap around her shoulder, and dropped to a prone position like it was muscle memory. One breath in. One slow exhale. She fired. The sound cracked sharp through the air. The instructor looked through his binoculars and blinked. "Dead center," he muttered. She stood, said nothing, and stepped back into the line. The others stared. No grin. No celebration. Just calm. As if she hadn't done anything special. The second shot was the same. And the third. Always one bullet. Always the same result. One instructor, a hardened sergeant with 20 years under his belt, narrowed his eyes. "That's not beginner's luck," he said under his breath. "That's training." But no record showed advanced background. No mention of military family. Nothing about sniper school or combat exposure. According to the system, she was just another recruit. One evening, after chow, Elena was found alone near the edge of the field, watching the sun drop behind the trees. The sky was red. Dust hung in the air. A staff sergeant approached quietly. "You shoot like someone who's seen war," he said. She didn't turn to him. She just replied softly, "Some lessons stay with you, even if the teacher doesn't." Then she walked away. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. The sergeant stood still for a long time, staring after her. The others didn't notice. But something had just shifted. She wasn't just good. She was trained. And not by the army. Someone had shown her these things long before she ever wore a uniform. But who? And why? No one knew it yet, but the truth was coming. And when it did, it would arrive with the sound of a single bullet. One shot. The kind you never forget. Elena's name began to spread, quietly, like a rumor no one wanted to say too loud. They called her the Phantom behind her back. Not out of mockery, but out of confusion. Nobody could figure her out. She didn't fit the mold. She didn't try to. And somehow, that made her unforgettable. During tactical drills, while others fumbled through door entries and shouted over each other, Elena moved like a shadow, fast, quiet, controlled. She cleared rooms before her teammates even stepped in. She wasn't faster because she rushed. She was faster because she knew. One of the corporals started keeping a notebook. He wrote down every move she made, hoping to learn her timing, her methods. After a week, he gave up. "She's doing things they don't even teach us yet," he muttered. The instructors noticed too. But she never showed off. That's what made it more unsettling. She didn't want attention. She avoided it. Her skill wasn't performance, it was survival. One morning, before sunrise, the platoon was called for advanced marksmanship under low light. It was a tough test, meant to simulate night operations. Targets were placed at odd angles, partially obscured by branches and wind-blown dust. Most struggled. Even the better shots hesitated before pulling the trigger. Then it was Elena's turn. She adjusted her scope slowly, barely blinking. Her breathing didn't change. Her hands didn't shake. She waited for the wind to break and fired. Hit. First shot. Second target, same story. Then the third. Hit. 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 She cleared the course faster than anyone. Not by rushing. By knowing. The sergeant overseeing the test lowered his binoculars and said quietly, "That's not skill. That's muscle memory. That's ghost training." Another instructor nearby leaned over. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" "Yeah," he replied. "She reminds me of someone." Later that day, word got around. An old staff sergeant who had served in classified units before retirement asked to meet her. Said she reminded him of a legend. A sniper who never missed. A man who vanished without a trace after his last mission. David Mendez. Known as Deadeye. The name didn't mean much to the younger soldiers. But to the old-timers, it stopped conversations mid-sentence. Mendez wasn't just good. He was a ghost in the field. One shot, one kill, one vanishing act. He hadn't been seen in over a decade. Officially listed Kia in a mission that was still redacted. But his style was unforgettable. And now, somehow, they were seeing it again, in a 22-year-old recruit who refused to talk about her past. That evening, as the sun dipped below the ridgeline, Elena was seen kneeling in the sand behind the barracks. Not praying, just thinking. One of the older lieutenants approached her slowly. "You ever heard the name Mendez?" he asked. She didn't look up, didn't blink. She just replied, "Not everyone who's lost is gone." Then she stood up and walked away, leaving the lieutenant staring at her footprints in the sand. Back in the barracks, her fellow soldiers were whispering again. She moves like him. She shoots like him. She thinks like him. Someone finally said it out loud. Is she related to Deadeye Mendez? No one knew. Elena wasn't talking. But the more she stayed silent, the louder the questions became. And deep inside a locked footlocker, hidden beneath her spare uniforms and standard gear, sat an old, folded photograph. A man in uniform, a sniper rifle, a familiar intensity in his eyes. And next to him, a little girl, smiling. The truth was there. But the world wasn't ready to hear it. Not yet. The storm didn't begin with gunfire. It began with a photograph. It happened during a gear inspection. Nothing serious, just routine checks after field drills. The barracks were loud, full of half-dressed recruits tossing boots and shoving equipment into crates. Elena was quiet, as always, folding her uniform with exact precision. Her bag slipped off the bunk and hit the floor. No one noticed until something slid out. A photo. Not new. Not digital. Worn edges, creased down the middle. Black and white, printed on old fiber paper. A man in combat gear stood tall, face half-shadowed, sniper rifle in hand. Next to him, a child no older than 6, smiling wide. Same eyes. Same mouth. Before Elena could snatch it back, another recruit spotted it. "Hey, who's this?" The voice cut through the noise. Elena's hand moved fast. Too fast. She grabbed the photo and shoved it deep into her vest. But someone else had already seen it. A corporal. Older. Experienced. He stood frozen, eyes wide. That's Mendez." The room fell silent. Another voice chimed in. "You mean Deadeye Mendez?" Everyone looked around. Someone laughed nervously. "He's just a myth, right? Didn't he die, like 12 years ago?" The corporal didn't laugh. He looked at Elena. "You know him?" Her answer came slowly. Cold. Steady. "No." But her voice cracked. "Not much. Just enough." That night, no one talked to her. Not directly. But the whispers returned, louder this time. She felt them pressing in from every angle. Some called it coincidence. Others didn't believe in those. The photo had raised more than curiosity. It had unlocked something dangerous. The kind of secret people didn't ask questions about. Especially in uniform. The next day, during advanced sniper training, things only got stranger. Elena was paired with a new spotter, a quiet, older sergeant who had transferred in from another base. His name was Ward. No one knew much about him. But he knew about her. He said nothing during setup. Just watched her. Judged her breathing, her rhythm, her patience. She adjusted the scope, lined up a 500-yard target in high wind. She didn't blink. Bang. Dead center. Ward didn't speak. Didn't smile. Just nodded once. After the drill, he approached her alone, hands behind his back. You ever shoot in combat? No, Sergeant. He tilted his head slightly. Someone taught you. Someone good. She didn't answer. He leaned closer. I served under Mendez. Once. Back in Kandahar. He used to say, a Real sniper doesn't aim. She listens. The wind speaks. The sand whispers. And the shot answers. You shot like that today. Elena didn't move. Didn't flinch. But her eyes shifted, just for a second. And that was enough. Ward nodded slowly. People like him don't disappear. They pass on. Then he walked away. Later that evening, she opened her locker again. Her fingers traced the edge of the old photo. The corner was torn. The ink had faded. But the memory hadn't. She could still hear his voice in her head. You don't shoot to impress. You shoot to protect. You fire once, and the world listens. Her father had said that the night he disappeared, the army claimed he died on a mission overseas. The funeral was closed casket. There was no body, just medals, folded flags, and silence. But Elena knew better. He had never died. He had hidden to raise her, train her, prepare her. And now his lessons were surfacing. In the way she walked, in the way she breathed before a shot. And soon the world would know. Because silence doesn't last forever. Eventually, someone pulls the trigger. The mission was supposed to be routine. A village checkpoint sweep, 3 miles past the safe zone. No known hostiles. No reported movement. Just a dry, wind-battered settlement where the biggest threat was usually a broken water pump or a wandering goat. But nothing about that day felt routine. The air was different. Heavy. Still. As the convoy rolled in, Elena sat quietly in the back of the lead Humvee. Her eyes weren't on the road. They were scanning rooftops, shadows, windows with curtains drawn a little too perfectly. Her squad leader laughed off the tension. Relax, rookie. If there were snipers out here, we'd already be dead. She didn't laugh. Minutes later, they dismounted. Elena's boots hit the sand with practiced grace. The others stretched, joked, lit cigarettes. She stayed low, scanning the angles. Something didn't feel right. The wind was too calm. The village too quiet. Then it happened. A single shot cracked through the air. Sharp, clean, purposeful. One of the squad dropped instantly. Hit high in the chest. He didn't even scream. Just fell. Chaos erupted. Soldiers scrambled for cover, shouting directions, none of which made sense. Some hit the dirt. Others dragged the wounded behind cover. Training took over, but panic wasn't far behind. Elena didn't move at first. She just listened. The shot hadn't echoed like a typical rifle. It was suppressed. Professional. Not a wild ambush. This was a sniper. Trained. Patient. Dangerous. She peered over the edge of the vehicle, scanning the ridgeline to the north. Nothing moved. But she knew. She pulled her own rifle from the rack, not standard issue. It was custom. Modified grip. Adjusted scope. It had once belonged to someone else. Someone who taught her how to shoot in wind, sun, and silence. She found her angle. Measured the wind with her cheek, not a gauge. Let her breath slow. Then she saw it. The glint, just a flicker of light off glass, tucked between two clay walls high on a rooftop. No one else would have seen it. Not unless they were looking with the eyes of someone trained to feel threats before they appeared. She lined it up. Then everything went quiet in her head. No heartbeat. No shouting. No fear. Just the shot. Bang. A puff of dust. A falling shape. Then silence. Real silence. Her squad leader looked over, mouth open. "You saw him?" She nodded once. The radio crackled. Reports confirmed a single sniper down. No backup. No further threat. The mission was called off. But no one left the same. Later that evening, back at base, the squad gathered in the tent. The injured soldier survived, thanks to fast reaction. But no one could stop talking about the shot that saved them. One bullet. Through haze, heat, and fear. You don't learn that at boot camp, someone said. You're born with that. Or someone gives it to you. All eyes turned to Elena. She was cleaning her rifle in silence. Her squad leader sat across from her. "I've seen that shot before," he said slowly. "Back in '08. In footage we weren't supposed to see. Same angle. Same wind. Same silence. The guy who pulled it, they called him Deadeye." Elena didn't look up. She just said, "He taught me to listen, not to talk." And with that, she reassembled her rifle, clicked it shut, and walked out of the tent. No one followed, because deep down they knew that shot hadn't come from her. It had come from him, through her, and the desert had heard it. By the next morning, the base had changed. Not officially, not on paper, but something was different. Elena Torres, the quiet girl no one noticed, had become the name whispered in every corner of the camp. Soldiers passed her in the halls and turned to watch. Some gave a nod. Others just stared, unsure of what they were looking at. She didn't wear anything different. She didn't carry herself with pride. She walked the same way, eyes down, shoulders level, hands calm. But now every step she took left an echo. The squad had replayed the sniper shot over and over. Not just in words, but in their minds. How she saw him before anyone else. How she moved without panic. How the bullet landed clean, precise, final. They called it instinct. But one person knew better. Staff Sergeant Ward, the older sniper who'd quietly taken an interest in her, requested a private meeting. Not an interrogation, just a conversation. She met him in the weapons bay. Empty, quiet, smelled of oil and dust. He stood by the armory bench, holding a worn file folder. No words at first, just silence. Then he opened the file. Inside, a grainy surveillance photo, dated 11 years ago. A sniper crouched behind a crumbled wall in a war zone. Identical stance, identical hold. The position, the posture, the breathing, it was all the same. He slid it across the table. "You know who this is?" Elena didn't answer. She didn't need to. He opened another file. This one marked classified. Inside, a page stamped with a red word, deceased. Name, David Mendez. He tapped the page. "This says he died in Afghanistan. But I was there. I helped write the report. It never sat right with me." Still, she said nothing. He leaned forward. The military needed him gone. Too many enemies. Too many secrets. His last mission wasn't a firefight. It was an exit. She looked up, finally. Eyes steady. Unblinking. "He didn't die," she said. "I know," Ward replied. "That shot you took yesterday? That was his. His signature. No one else moves like that. Breathes like that. Not unless they trained under him. And only one person fits that age and profile." Elena stayed silent. He spoke again. "You're his daughter." She nodded. Ward stepped back. For a moment, he didn't speak. Then he let out a long breath and smiled, not out of joy, but out of understanding. "He trained you." She nodded again. "In secret. Off-grid. For 10 years. In mountains. forests, deserts. Why now? Why join the military? She looked down at her hands. Because he always said the world would eventually need to hear his voice again. And when it did, it would come through me. Ward didn't press further. He just closed the file and said, "They'll find out eventually." "I know," she said, "but not for me." She walked out of the room. By nightfall, the story had traveled faster than truth. Some said she was his niece. Others claimed she was a student from some underground program. A few believed she was his daughter. But even then, they couldn't agree on whether he was dead or just hiding. Elena let them talk, because none of them understood what the truth really meant. They thought the legend of Deadeye was buried in the past. But legends don't die. They just wait for the right moment to breathe again. And this time, it had taken the shape of a young woman with calm eyes and a silent step. She didn't just carry his name. She carried his aim. It was supposed to be a quiet night. The sky above the base was clear, filled with stars that never blinked. A soft wind drifted through the tents, rustling the edges like whispered warnings. Most of the squad had turned in. Only the night watch moved through the darkness, their footsteps barely louder than the hum of the perimeter lights. Elena couldn't sleep. She sat alone at the edge of the barracks, her rifle beside her, disassembled and cleaned twice already. Her hands moved through the motions again, not out of habit, but out of memory. Every part of the weapon held a story, a lesson, a voice. Keep it quiet, clean. Trust your gear. Trust your breath. The rest is noise. Her father's voice still lived in those words. Not like a ghost, but like a shadow stitched into every bolt and trigger. She pulled the photo from her vest. Worn, creased, fading. She'd looked at it 1,000 times. But tonight, something felt heavier. Not the paper, the silence. Then the alarm sounded. Short, sharp. Not a drill. Elena stood in one motion, already grabbing her weapon, already moving before the orders came. Soldiers poured from tents, half-dressed and confused, rifles clutched tight. A convoy had been ambushed just outside the southern checkpoint. 3 vehicles down. No communication. Possible capture. Volunteers were called. Elena didn't wait to be asked. She moved with the first squad out the gate, eyes narrowed against the wind, every step pulling her closer to something she couldn't name, a feeling sharp and cold, sitting just behind her ribs. They arrived to wreckage, burned-out tires, sand blackened with oil. One vehicle still smoldering, heat warping the air above it. No enemy in sight. No gunfire. Just quiet. Too quiet. The sergeant signaled to split and sweep. Elena broke off with a fire team, circling wide along the ridge. Her boots found no sound. Her breath stayed low. Then she saw it. A flash of light, not bright, not wild. Just a tiny flicker on the horizon. Sniper scope. She didn't speak. She didn't yell. She dropped, slid behind cover, and raised her rifle. Her fingers adjusted the dial. Her cheek pressed gently into the stock. The scope revealed him. One man, long barrel, camouflaged into the hillside. He was watching them, patient, waiting. Her heartbeat slowed. She felt the wind through her fingers. She remembered the training, the real training, not classroom drills, but the lessons spoken in whispers beneath trees, in snow, in silence. Her father's words returned. You don't shoot because you can. You shoot because you must. You shoot to protect the ones who don't see what you do. She fired. The bullet tore through wind and time. The man dropped. The team below hadn't even seen him, but they heard the shot. They looked up, then back down. Stillness. The radio clicked alive. Threat neutralized. Elena didn't speak. She didn't need to. By the time the team regrouped, someone asked the question again, half joking, half afraid. Does she even miss? Another answered quietly, not when it counts. Back at the base, her rifle went back into its case. Clean, Quiet. Familiar. The whispers started again. This time, they didn't ask if she was his daughter. They started saying it like fact. Deadeye Mendez's blood runs through her. Not everyone believed it. But those who saw the shot? They didn't need proof. They heard the truth in a single bullet. And the wind carried the rest. Rain fell over the desert. A rare thing. Unusual. Unwelcome. It didn't pour. It whispered. Light drops against metal roofs and dusty boots. The sky above the base turned gray, like the clouds were holding a secret too heavy to keep. Elena stood alone at the firing range. She wasn't training. She wasn't aiming. She was remembering. Each shot she'd taken had pulled her further from silence, closer to something that couldn't stay hidden forever. Her squad respected her now, not because of rank, not because of uniform, because of fear and awe, and questions no one wanted answered out loud. That afternoon, she was called into command. A man waited in the office, not in uniform, not with rank on his collar, just a plain suit, dark glasses, and a badge that said more than his voice ever would. He introduced himself simply. Langley. Intelligence. She didn't shake his hand. He opened a file on the desk between them. "You've been busy, Private Torres." She said nothing. He slid a page forward. A report. Surveillance from her last mission. The sniper she'd neutralized wasn't a random threat. He was a known contractor. Ex-military. Connected to a list of operations that had been wiped clean from the system. Except one. Operation Stonevale. Elena's eyes shifted. Langley watched her closely. "That name mean anything to you?" She stared at the paper. Stonevale. It was the last operation her father was ever assigned to. The one the government had buried. The one they swore he died in. But he didn't. He ran. Langley continued, calm and careful. "Your shots saved lives. That's not in question. What is how you knew he was there. How you saw him. How you moved before the threat even revealed itself." Still, she stayed silent. He leaned forward. "You were trained. And not by the army." Then he showed her another document. A declassified image. Grainy, but clear enough. Her father. Years older than the last photo anyone had seen. Not in uniform. Bearded. Eyes sharper than ever. The timestamp? 3 years ago. Not dead. Not vanished. Alive. Langley closed the file. "We don't want him," he said. "We want to understand." She finally spoke. He wanted peace. "Not for him. For me." Langley didn't flinch. "He's hiding from a war that never ended. And he passed the battle on to you." Elena stood. "I never asked for it." "But you carry it," he replied. "Like a weapon." She paused at the door. "Maybe. But I also carry the truth. And it's heavier than any rifle." Langley let her leave. No threats. No promises. But the message was clear. They knew. That night, rain still fell over the base. Elena sat by her cot, staring at the photo again. Only now something had changed. The truth was no longer hiding. The government knew. The ghosts in the files had faces again. Her father's name, once whispered in fear, was returning to the surface. Through her actions, through her aim, through her silence. She tucked the photo away. Outside, lightning flashed across the horizon. She walked to the armory. Quiet. Focused. Another mission was coming. Not the kind with orders. The kind with meaning. The kind her father had warned her about. Because when legends resurface, they don't do it quietly. They do it with purpose. And sometimes, all it takes is one final shot. The mission came without warning. No ceremony. No briefing room. Just a sealed envelope left on Elena's cot. Her name typed clean across the top. Inside, coordinates, satellite images, and a single word handwritten at the bottom. Finish it. She didn't ask questions. She packed light. 1 rifle. 1 sidearm. No backup. No squad. Just her and the desert. The location was remote, an old outpost buried deep in the hills near the border. Abandoned for years, but recently reactivated under false names and fake contracts. Whoever was there didn't want to be found. But Elena found them. She reached the ridge just before dusk. Wind tore across the sand, pulling at her hood. Through the scope, she saw figures moving, armed men, tactical gear, faces hidden. Not soldiers. Mercenaries. Paid to protect something or someone. She adjusted her lens. Then she saw him, standing in the shadows, hands behind his back, looking directly at her position, like he already knew. Older, weathered, but unmistakable. David Mendez. Alive. Her breath caught. Her hands froze. He hadn't aged the way time ages most people. His body carried weight. Not from years, but from history. And he was smiling. Not wide. Not proud. Just knowing. She lowered the scope. He was here. Right in front of her. After years of silence. After training her, disappearing, and leaving only lessons behind. He was here. But why? She moved in closer. Stealth. Silent boots. Every step calculated. Just like he taught her. She slipped past 2 guards, found her way into the outer wall, and waited. She knew he'd come to her. He always taught her, don't chase the answer. Let the answer come to you. And it did. She turned the corner, and he was there. They stood 5 feet apart. Neither spoke at first. Then he broke the silence. You never stopped listening. She swallowed hard. You were supposed to be dead. He shrugged. I was. To them. She stepped forward. Why this place? Why now? He looked around. Because the war didn't end when I left. It just got quieter. I thought silence would protect you. But you brought the sound back. She nodded once. I had to. His eyes narrowed, not angry, not disappointed. Just accepting. I taught you to shoot, to breathe. But I never taught you what happens after the trigger's pulled. I've learned, she said. And I still have questions. He sighed. So do I. Behind them, a sound, footsteps. More mercenaries. The place was closing in. Too many eyes. Too much risk. Elena raised her weapon. But Mendez held up a hand. Not yet. He looked at her one more time. If this is the last time we see each other, I want you to remember something. She waited. He stepped closer. You're not me. You never were. You're better. Then he walked past her, hands up, surrendering himself to the guards that had arrived. She didn't move, didn't speak. The men took him without a word. And just like that, he was gone again. Not in death. In sacrifice. Later, command debriefed her. They didn't ask what was said. They only confirmed the site had been shut down. The threat neutralized. But Elena knew the truth. Her father hadn't been the threat. He'd been the shield. And now it was her turn. Back at base, she opened her locker. The photo was still there. But this time, she didn't look at the child. She looked at the man. And for the first time, she smiled. The legend hadn't ended. It had just passed hands. Not through blood, but through aim, through silence, through one final shot that told the truth.